Welcome back to the Whatnauts Reactor Core. My name is Kyle Springer, and I am joined by Melissa Wilkinson.
Hello.
Melissa, how are you? We
I'm
just
doing
got
fine
done
today.
recording another podcast, so I
Right,
kind of
you just
already
saw me.
know. Yeah.
Right. I ate a small salad between that podcast and this podcast, so that's the only news.
Wow. So interesting. Interesting. Yeah. Okay, good. I did not do a whole bunch before this podcast besides just sit here and wait. So yeah, we are here this week to talk about James Bond No Time to Die. We are gonna do a full spoiler cast on this one. We'll give our spoiler-free thoughts here at the start, but stick around, you'll get the full spoiler treatment, all of that stuff. Melissa, you are kind of our resident James Bond fan here at
Yes.
the Whatnauts. Where are you in the like James Bond fandom? What does that mean that you are a fan of James Bond? What does that mean for you?
Okay. So I didn't grow up with James Bond necessarily. Like I grew up in the 90s. Like I saw all the commercials for all the Pierce Brosnan movies.
Right.
I was well acquainted with Mr. Austin Powers. And sometimes I'd see the other ones on TV. My dad wasn't a Bond dad. He was a Western dad. That's a different class of dad. I got into it.
Both of those boxes. Westerns, check. Bond, check. Yeah.
Mm. I got into it in my mid-20s because I love a podcaster named Matt Gorley, and he started doing a show called James Bonding. It's him and another comedian talking about just all the Bond movies, and there aren't that many of them. They started this before Spectre, so there were only 23. So they talked about all of them, and then they're like, "Oh, we can talk about all of them again, I guess, to sort of fill episode space. There's more to say. We'll have different guests on." And so I just learned a lot about this franchise secondhand because I like to hear them describe the movies to me. And then I thought, well, I'll see these new ones. So I watched all the Daniel Craig ones. I really liked them. The first movie I got to see in theaters was Spectre. And
Nice.
There's another James Bond podcast I love to listen to called Spectre. A special podcast exclusively for comedy, talking, revenge, and extortion. As co-hosted by like a friend of a friend, so I got to be on one episode of that. I got to talk about Moonraker. So I've slowly like built out my knowledge of Bond. I haven't watched all of the pre-Daniel movies yet. I'm like halfway there. And No Time to Die has been something I've been really excited for because I've liked this arc of the Bond movies. I knew this was going to be the final one for this actor. They were going to sort of wrap things up. And I was so excited by all these other new actors they brought in, and the director and the premise sounded exciting. And I've just been so jazzed for this, especially after it took a year and a half. It was delayed so much.
Yeah,
for so many reasons.
We'll mention that in a second.
And during quarantine, I would just drive to my favorite movie theater just to look at the outside of the building and see if the No Time to Die poster with the old like April 2020 release date. See if that was still up there. Right. Oh, I should ask for one of those old dated posters. I take either. I'll take one with like all 3 release dates it's had, please.
It's had like, I think they've slapped. It's had like five release dates. So I
think after
this is
it was
what
like
I was mentioning, that it was originally supposed to come out in 2019. It was the initial just like, hey, at the end of 2019. Then it got delayed to February 2020, and then was delayed to April 2020. And then, of course, in March is when COVID hit. So these are like, this is when the like actual delays started happening that we started taking notes. But there were actually 2 smaller delays.
Yeah, this
right
is a movie.
COVID.
Yeah. I think the April 2020 was the first like official like day and date release date I'd heard of. And then it was pushed to November and then April and then back to October again, here where we are now. Yeah, this was a movie that had a long genesis process. I think it had another script and another director originally. It changed hands a lot until it got to the script we've now, with some writing by Phoebe Waller-Bridge. And I think I forget the other writers. I think Purvis and Wade back on this one, and then directed by Kari Joji Fukunaga.
Yeah, let me look up here. Screenplay by Neil Purvis and Robert Wade, Kari Joji Fukunaga, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge. So yeah, you nailed it there. Nailed it with all of that stuff. Yeah, I kind of grew up with Bond in my household, right? My dad was a James Bond fan. I love video games, so I played a lot of James Bond 007 on the N64, all of that stuff. So I had seen odds and ends. I had seen Dr. No. I had seen Thunderball. I had seen bits of this one there and bits of that one there. I saw Goldeneye when Pierce Brosnan started all of his stuff, and then the next one after that is whatever that one was.
It's either Tomorrow Never Dies or The World Is Not Enough. I forget which one is which, and then of course Die Another Day closes out the Brosnan era.
Yeah, so I had seen most, if not all, of those. They were, except for Goldeneye, simply because of the video game. Those ones were never really memorable for me.
Yeah.
But then I remember when Daniel Craig took over, and man, I want to say I was in middle school when Casino Royale came out, or
it came out in 2006, I think.
So 16. I was in high school then. Is when that came out. But just to think back now that I am now 30 years old, almost 31, and it just like he's just getting done with that, and they've done 5 films now. Is kind of wild to see how far this has come.
I think Connery and Moore have done more movies than he has, but I think in terms of years, consecutive years, it might be Daniel taking home the award from 2006 to 2021. Yes.
Yeah. And I think it's also safe to say that his series of films is by far the most continuity heavy. There might be like one or two smaller things in older series and stuff like that, but this one is just all one big giant story. But I do have to mention that 2 years ago on 2 years ago on the Whatnauts review show, we watched Dr. No, which is the very first James Bond film. So you guys can go check out our discussion on that if you would like. And then we also did a Daniel Craig, James Bond, like, hey, we should probably watch all of these before this comes out in April 2020. We did those at the start of 2020, and we did that at the start of 2020 or 2021.
It started 2021.
It had already been delayed.
Our first episodes of the year are typically like bigger episodes because we have more time to watch something longer over our like little Christmas break that we take of a couple weeks. So 2020 started with the BBC series Sherlock, another British literary hero. But 2021 started with Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, Skyfall, and Spectre.
Yeah, so we watched all of those. We have discussed them all. If you guys want to go check that out, it is up on the review show as well. So we've discussed some Bond here at the Whatnauts, but this is the first one that we get to do like a spoiler cast for, and we get to discuss it like the weekend it came out. It's kind of cool.
Yes,
kind of cool indeed. So. Let me pull up these here. Some little facts about all of this stuff. As of recording this, according to Box Office Mojo, the film has grossed 56 million here in the United States. It has grossed 257 million internationally and 313 million worldwide. So it is
Not
doing pretty
bad.
good for itself, yeah. And then, according to Rotten Tomatoes, right now it is sitting at an 84% on the tomato meter and an 88% in the audience score. So again, doing real well for
I
itself.
would put that higher. I'm going to say I loved this
Honestly, yeah,
movie. This
I did too.
was so worth the wait for me. I was very satisfied. It is long. It's 2
Ooh,
hours and
yeah.
43 minutes long. It doesn't feel quite that long, but that is a hefty chunk of change to be spending in a movie theater. So imagine that may knock some points off for some people.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this film too.
Mm,
This is I don't know if I would put it on the same par as like Mission Impossible Fallout because 3 years ago we watched all the Mission
yeah.
Impossible films and I was sitting there like, man, I wish I could have seen Mission Impossible Fallout in theaters because that would have been a spectacle to see. And this I think is real close though. I don't know if I put it on the same par. I did get to see this in theaters.
Yes.
I think I would have been okay if I had seen this from the comfort of my own home.
Oh,
But
I
still
I
very
love
good.
to see this in a theater. Like just sitting there in
Oh,
the dark
I
when they
did
start
too.
playing the
It was
Bond theme at the
amazing.
beginning. That was so valuable. Sitting there at the end of the movie waiting for the text to scroll across the screen. James Bond will return. I
In
love
the
that I got to do
Avengers.
this in a big dark room. It
Yeah.
meant a lot to me.
Yeah. No, I had a blast going to see this in theaters. I think this was a good ending to the saga that is that is Daniel Craig's James
Mhm.
Bond. I think this was fantastic. I loved it. Um, definitely recommend it. Definitely go check this out. Even if you don't really know much about the other James Bond stuff, I think it
Mhm.
works mostly. And I think that
Yeah.
is because it uses its 2 hours and 43 minutes very wisely. I never
Yeah.
felt like the movie was slow or it
No.
was just like, oh, why is this scene in here? Why are we still there? It kept my attention the entire time. And it was a blast. It was a blast to watch. So
Yeah, I was thinking, like, I think there's some things that would be helpful to know beforehand, but I was like, if I have 5 minutes to like recap to somebody I'm going to see this movie with, that 5 minutes will do it. Like, it doesn't take
basically, yeah,
that much to really bring them up to speed on the key points.
that's what I did. I just went to YouTube and I think I found a video from IGN. That was just like, hey, here's a I think they did everything. I think it was an older video, so I don't think it had Spectre in there yet. But it basically recapped, those first handful, and I was like, all right, that's good.
Mhm.
Like that's kind of all I need. Um, kind of need to know who Vesper is, but that's
Yeah.
basically like you need to know who Vesper is, and then who God, what's her? I'm blanking on
Madeline
the actress's name. Yeah, what's the actress that
or
plays
Am.
her?
You
Leia Seydoux
yes, yes.
character, Madeline Swan. You kind of need to know who she is.
Yeah. Yeah, this
But
movie is it is a direct continuation off of Spectre with some nods back to things that happen in Casino Royale and the other ones.
yeah. But yeah, if you don't know much going in, you'll be mostly fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I enjoyed this a lot. I thought this was really good. The action was phenomenal. I thought Rami Malek as the kind of Bond villain did a great job. He has
Yeah.
like God, like these are the kind of roles that I like to see Rami Malek in, where he can be weird, right? Like he is like we saw him in Mr. Robot, which we discussed at length on the review show as well. And he's offbeat. He's a weirdo. And I mean that in the best way possible. I
Right,
love
yes,
it when
yeah.
he can like fit in those characters. Because there was that one HBO Max movie with him, Denzel Washington,
The little
and then
things.
yeah, the little things, and he plays a cop in that, and he plays like a good guy. He just didn't fit. I guess he's not really a good guy in that film. Kind of mild spoilers with that, but yeah, just like this role, this James
Yeah.
Bond role that he has
There's
in this
a
was
lot of fun
phenomenal
to be had here.
for
Lots
him
to
there.
do.
I wish we saw more of him though. That was
Yeah,
maybe my only, just like, man, like I want more of him because he's good.
The cast in this movie is phenomenal. There's people who return, carries over everyone from the previous movies. Felix Leiter comes back, who's a CIA agent who's one of Bond's allies who was in the first two movies and is a recurring character throughout Bond history. You know, I think almost every Bond has had a Felix that they've run into. And the movie adds a couple new characters who I also loved. I think my only qualms are like, yeah, I wish I just got to spend like 5% more time with various characters.
Absolutely.
Like nobody's shortchanged, but I just love them so much. I wish I could get slightly more time with Moneypenny. Just a couple,
exactly.
a little bit more from Moneypenny. Yeah.
Exactly. Any other kind of spoiler-free thoughts that you wanted to mention here?
Oh, it's a great time. It's really fun. I think this movie packs an emotional punch, but it does also have laughs in it, like well-placed, well-toned laughs. And it harkens back to the kind of over-the-topness of former Bonds, but not in a way that I think like wrecks the believability of it. I think it's so well measured in so many ways.
Absolutely. I thought this film was phenomenal. Go check it out. Bond, James Bond, No Time to Die. Yeah, it was good. Very good. With that, though, we are going to take a quick break for our housekeeping, and then we will be right back and we will start breaking the film down, discussing the plot, all that sort of stuff. So we will be right back. We put a lot of hard work into the shows that we make, and yes, we make multiple different shows here at the Whatnauts, and we'd love it if you would check them all out. You can find out more information on our website at thewhatnauts.com, as well as your favorite podcasting platform of choice. When you type in the Whatnauts, all of our shows will pop up right there. Just don't forget to give us a nice rating and review if you like the shows. If you want to support what we do here at The Whatnauts, patreon.com/The Whatnauts is the best place to do that. You can support us for as little as $1 a month. You can get all kinds of exclusive content at the $3 tier. You can also get a shout out and thank you on all of our shows at the $5 tier. You can support us on Twitch by subscribing to our channel at twitch.tv/The Whatnauts, and we would love to have you all join us for our live streams and talk with us in the chat. And lastly, we have merch. If you want to grab yourself a shirt or a sweatshirt or a mug or something else, go to thewhatnauts.com/store to pick up some merch today. And we are back. Thank you to all of our Patreon supporters, especially those at the $5 tier and above. So thank you to Sam for supporting us.
Thanks, Sam.
For keeping the mics on and funding this whole operation. Right? There you go. Thank you, Sam. We appreciate it a lot. Cool things that we have been doing here at the Whatnauts. We have started, it's October when we are recording this, so we are in the middle of Horror Month on the Whatnauts review show, which is our book club style podcast. So we've covered so far a movie called Lake Mungo, which is an Australian film shot like a documentary about a girl who died and all this supernatural stuff that happens to her family and the house that they live in after. It's a good film, sad film though. Then we also just recorded our podcast on Brand New Cherry Flavor, which is a Netflix like limited series, so it's only one season. I think it's based off a novel of the same name. But that one was wild. I liked that one a lot, and I'm not really a big horror fan. But as I said on the show, watching Brand New Cherry Flavor felt like reading a ransom note, because it's just like letters cut out, just a whole collage of different horror genres mixed in this one thing. It was good. It was a lot of fun.
And we use the term horror very loosely. Like our next episode is going to be on Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Which is a film many people horror. See when they're like 8 years old.
Yeah. Indeed. But yeah, so you guys can go check all of that stuff out and much more on our website, on our YouTube, on our podcasts, all of that stuff. But with that, let us get into spoilers. Here we are in spoiler mode. Okay, so let's start with where this film starts off. Like you said, this is a direct continuation of the previous James Bond film, Spectre. We see Bond and Madeline Swan going off into the sunset, onto their next adventure, to go honeymoon somewhere, I guess you can call it. They're just traveling the world and eating good food.
Yeah,
and
he's
stuff like that.
left
Stuff
MI6 behind.
Do, right?
He's fully retired. He's like, I leave this behind. Don't talk to me about any more Blofeld nonsense. I was going to run away with this lovely doctor. And the actual opening scene of the film is a flashback to Madeline's childhood. She told Bond that her father was a member of Spectre. He was up to all these shady dealings. And she's like, I knew where he kept the gun in the house. And then one day when somebody came for my family, I had to shoot and kill him. I had to take it out and shoot him when I was just like 10 years old. And we see what that incident is, where it's a young Safin who comes to her house because her father was involved in the killing of his entire family. He shows up, he kills them. Dad's not there. Kills the mom, tries to kill Madeline. She shoots at him, thinks she kills him, and then he gets back up again. And she runs out onto like a frozen lake behind their house.
That's wild.
And she falls under the ice, and Safin's like stalking over her, and he shoots the ice and pulls her out. Like he decides in the end to save her life. And then cut to modern day Madeline and modern day Bond.
Right, and they're like, yeah, let's go celebrate all that stuff. But yeah, the scene with Safin there, which is Rami Malek's character, is an interesting one because she is dragging him out of the house after she's shot him.
She's dealing with a dead body.
She's dealing with it. I wouldn't know what her plan was. Like, was she gonna just like leave him out on the ice? Or
maybe
dump him somewhere? Like, it's unclear, but that was like, what is she doing? Like, what is her plan? She's just this like 8-year-old kid, like trying to drag him out, and he just wakes up and she's just like, oh shit, like I gotta run. So yeah, wild stuff. But Bond is having trouble kind of moving on, as we kind of knew he would. He's looking over his shoulder a bit, even though he says he's not. He thinks he's moved on from Vesper, who was the woman he fell in love with in Casino Royale, or I guess at the end of that one. And she had gotten trapped in an elevator and drowned as it was sinking into the water. A whole
it was in Venice.
Bunch of stuff. Yeah, but he's having trouble. It seems like he's having trouble forgiving her for what she did, because she had betrayed him at the last second.
Yeah.
But we get a nice note that I think it's actually the opposite. He's having trouble forgiving himself for not saving her.
Mm-hmm.
How did how did you like this whole opening sequence? And I guess finding out that note once he finally gets to her grave, and that's the thing he said. Instead of like, "Hey, I forgive you," it's like, "Can you forgive me?"
I've always appreciated how much follow through there is on the Vesper storyline. Like she is, and not just a tryst. Like they truly fall in love. That's the first time he tries to like
Yeah.
run away with somebody. They're sailing on a boat, and he's got his Sony Vaio laptop out, typing "Dear MI6, I retire. Bye, Bond."
He's had to
And then
send that like
he
5 times in his career. Like, I'm retiring again. Send. I am
mean it this
retiring
time.
again. For real this time. Send.
Can't fire me, I retire.
And then the fourth time he just sends the Bernie meme. Once again, I am writing you to say that I'm retiring.
Yeah, I like how seriously the franchise takes Vesper, and I like that there was a nod to this in this movie where she was the previous love of his life before he met Madeline, and Madeline can tell that there's still a lot of baggage there, and she's like, I want you to close the book on this. And they're in this beautiful, like, Italian cliffside town where apparently, like, some of her family is from, and that's where she's buried. And Madeline tells Bond, go pay your final respects. If you do this, then I will tell you all these secrets that you can tell that I'm keeping. She's like, you close the book on your past, I'll open the book to you, and we can, like, move forward through things together.
Yeah, I think it's a good start, especially in spy genres. This is always something that comes up, right? Of just like how much of your truth really is your truth. How much are you actually opening up or sharing with people? And I think I think that kind of plot thread in these James Bond films really comes to a head here in this one, and I think they handle it expertly. I liked what they did here with this, and it didn't feel forced to me, right? Like, I think we've got enough of these films where, even though it's maybe been minor details throughout the films, like, we've gotten enough to understand like who the characters are, what they're dealing with, so on and so forth. But yeah, the thing that I really liked was this, not twist, that's not really the right word, but this revelation that James Bond reveals that it's not that he can't forgive her, like, because he keeps saying, like, I've already forgiven her, but it's the fact that he can't forgive himself for not saving her. That was like, oh, that was nice. Like, I wasn't expecting that to be the thing here.
Yeah, he goes to her grave, and
nice turn of events. Yeah,
he goes to her grave, and he just says, "I miss you." He burns a little note that says, "Forgive me." Yeah. Which might have been something she asked of him towards the end in their final moments. I'd have to watch Casino Royale again to see if that's a specific callback.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't remember specifically. But yeah, but almost immediately the action starts. The tomb explodes, unfortunately. Kaboom. And James Bond is off to the races. He's trying to track down the people that have done this. There's a car chase. He immediately hops out of the way. He's riding on motorcycles. He's shooting. Guns are going off. This is the action that you want and expect from James Bond.
What a good opening set piece. This whole city that they're filming in is beautiful, so unique looking. Everything's on these really steep cliffs. Yeah, all the action in this movie is very impressive. And I'm somebody who, I like superhero stories. I like spy stories, but just a lot of action. I don't normally get into action movies that don't have another subgenre laid on top of them. Plain action, I can't always do. I sort of glaze over and I can't pay attention because it goes too long without anybody talking. These are all dazzling. I liked so many of these.
Yeah. And this whole thing kind of culminates in Bond basically under the impression that it was Madeline Swan that set him up,
Yes.
because that's the only person he's told. So like how would
It-
Spectre know that he's out here, that he's at this
Oh,
grave
yeah,
at
yeah. He
this
goes to the
time?
grave and he finds like a little business card with the Spectre logo on it, and then the thing
Right?
blows up in his face. And one of the henchmen. Then we've got like one minor henchman we stick with throughout this movie. He's the guy who has like
Cyclops or
one
whatever
false
his name
eye.
is, yeah.
He calls him Cyclops. He says like, "Why do you trust Madeline? Don't you know she's a daughter of Spectre?" And this plants the idea in Bond's head after Vesper originally betrayed him that, is Madeline betraying me too? She is the most likely person to have done this. Like it hurts for me to go accuse her, but accusing her makes sense to me right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that whole scene kind of culminates in him putting her on a train and being like, I won't ever see you again. We're done.
Well, I think there's this great sequence where they're in his Aston Martin and they're being shot at by like all of these henchmen, and the car is taking it. It's bulletproof, but only up to a certain limit. Like there's a guy, like the guy with a machine gun that keeps walking closer and closer to the car, and the glass is cracking more and more and more. And Madeline's begging with Bond, like, you have to stop this. And he sort of gives in at some moment and seems to believe like, okay, maybe this isn't you, but
Yeah.
I can't say for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he puts her on a train to go away, and she's like, will I ever hear from you? How will you let me know that you're safe? And he's like, I won't. You won't know if I'm safe. You're never going to hear from me again. That's how this has to be, to keep both of us safe from each other.
Yeah. Yeah. That whole scene in the car reminded me a lot of Winter Soldier, when
Yes!
Nick Fury is trapped in his car and they're shooting him. But yeah, the whole thing was a great scene, great way to start off all the action for this film. I liked it a lot. And then when the train departs, cut to black. 5 years later.
Well,
and then
then we get our opening. We get our opening credits.
Opening credits. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which this is the new James Bond song that was released like a year ago, a year and a half ago ish. I don't know. So it was interesting to have heard that song a few times and then being like, all right, here we go, finally getting it on screen.
Yeah. Very cool sequence.
I liked the sequence a lot, especially when the guns were spiraling and they would shoot and it made the DNA sequence brilliant. I loved it. I was just like, oh,
my favorite
great.
part was all of the saffron masks that have like flowers and vines growing a body out of them. It reminded me a lot of those plant people in Annihilation.
Ooh, good call. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I enjoyed the opening credits. Not necessarily my favorite Bond song. I like it a lot, but it is very subdued.
It is.
Which yeah, so that'd be maybe more of an acquired taste for this one, not as big. Though it does crescendo at certain parts.
I will say, for me personally, it's hard to beat Skyfall in terms of both the song and the visuals, but I also like this one quite a bit.
This one was cool indeed. But yeah, then 5 years later is when the events of all of this next stuff starts. So to kind of get us rolling on that, it seems like there is this new technology that MI6 is maybe working on off the books. It is a weapon of sorts that is meant to target specific people to their DNA. And so they're basically hoping that, like, hey, instead of like wasting a bunch of human lives or money on bullets and more weapons. We can just make this one thing, kill the one person we need to, and be done.
Yeah, and it's something, it seems like it's called Project Heracles, and they can like implant it in you, and you can pass it from person to person using touch, but it will only hurt the specific person it is DNA encoded to, and it can be as narrow as one person, or it could be that person and their family, or broadened out to like entire ethnicities of people if they needed it to be. It's very, very scalable, Heracles.
Yeah. Scalable, good word. Which is exactly what Spectre has in mind for Project Heracles. And Spectre ends up getting their hands on it and is wanting to kill James Bond with this. They are wanting to get back at him. However, Safin has basically figured out that that's what they're after, so he intervenes and basically changes it to kill all of Spectre. We get this pretty cool scene at this party where there's this guy like holding up this cybernetic eye scanning the party, and it's like, and James Bond, you right there, our target, spotlight on him, and they're like, we're gonna kill you and only you right now. And then the gas comes in and instead starts killing all the Spectre people. So they're just like, what's going on? Lots of good and interesting stuff here with all of this. I've kind of jumped around and skipped around a bit on plot, but
I do just want to briefly say
start
that, like,
with that.
Yeah, no, it's good that we jump into what the main plot is instead of like scene by scene, because there's so much we have to cover. But I want to say that Bond has left all of his previous life behind. He's living in Jamaica, which is where Ian Fleming lived when he was writing the Bond novels. This was like a return home for the franchise. I know that was something very important to them. He's living in Jamaica.
A very similar. I don't remember. Was he in Jamaica in Dr. No? I don't remember, but it was a similar,
I believe so. Yeah,
similar location. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's approached by his old friend Felix Leiter, a CIA agent who's like this. The scientist was kidnapped. CIA's trying to find him. I know MI6 is trying to find him too. I know like our two dads are arguing. Like they're not cooperating with each other. And this makes me feel suspicious that like all these governmental agencies are trying to like hide something from each other. I think something's up. Will you help me like get this scientist back who like who Safin, like, who's been working with Safin to like modify Heracles for whatever Safin's purposes are, but like nobody knows about Safin. No, there's like somebody took this scientist, we don't know who. It seems like Spectre's all accounted for, like who else is left. So he's brought in by his old buddy Felix, and Felix sends him out in the field with a new agent named Paloma, who's a delight.
I hated him immediately. I was just like, this guy's so shiny and new.
There's the other guy. Oh yeah, the Felix does have like another like junior agent with him. This is Logan Ash, I think is his name, who's just this sort of shiny, smiley, gee whiz guy who Felix is like.
Just a big fan of Bond, right? Like,
yeah,
Bond.
It's like a big fan.
He's great. Big fan.
Love your
You're the
work.
Perfect guy for the job.
But yeah, Felix sends him out into the field with Ana de Armas's character Paloma, who's brand new on the job, super enthusiastic, but just like nervous about everything. Like she knows how to fight, but it seems like the espionage part of it makes her nervous. She keeps drinking. Like they'll go to a bar and like surreptitiously order a cocktail, and Bond will like sip at it for appearance's sake, and she'll drown the entire thing.
That was great, and he's just like, okay, here we go.
Wow, this is how we're playing.
Yeah. No, I liked her a lot. I was thinking the joke was gonna be that, yeah, she's only had like 3 weeks of like actual FBI training, but then the joke actually being, but I've been doing like martial arts my whole life or something like that. So it's like, oh, so you actually do know how to handle yourself and all of this, just officially, right? You're 3 weeks old.
Yeah. little baby agent. She's great. I like her and Bond go to this bar and they're going to toast. And they're like, what do we toast to? And they're like, let's toast to Felix, our mutual friend. And like this whole mission goes down in Cuba when Bond leaves. It's such a brief mission. Like they're really in and out. I like how efficient this part of the movie is. She's like, here's a cigar. Take this to Felix. Give him my regards. And Bond's like, nice working with you. She's like, nice working with you too. It's cool to see Bond just like make a nice friend with a lady out here on a mission. Yeah. and they both
not have it
share
be
their
this like sexual, like womanizing thing. Yeah.
Like she pulls him into a closet or like a pantry or whatever and starts undressing him. And he's like, you want to get to know each other a little bit better first? And she's like, oh no, you got to change into this tuxedo before we go to this party. I'm just trying to make this quick. You can do it yourself.
Just instinct starts helping him out to like unbutton stuff, and he's just like, what are you doing? Yeah, which I liked some of the in jokes on that of like, you expect that to be the way that the Bond movie goes, right? Where they go into a closet and they make love, and then that's how she's on his side, and then she dies, and then right? I don't know to what extent Phoebe Waller-Bridge rewrote these scripts, but they had like a featurette that was playing before the movie where Daniel Craig had mentioned, we brought her on to like polish up these scripts because we loved her work so much on stuff like Killing Eve and Fleabag, and I think just to have a woman behind the wheel on this character that is traditionally, like I said, a womanizing character who sleeps with them all and stuff like that, where their names are pussy galore and stuff like that, right? So yeah, I think having her on these scripts enabled it to have jokes like this and treat some of these characters much better, and I think just made it a better film. Like it felt more real in that sense, because I think we talked about this when we discussed all the other Daniel Craig stuff. There's so much pageantry that goes into James Bond. He always has this certain type of car, there's a certain type of gun, there's always the theme song, the intro sequence, there's this, there's that. Like, you have to have these things to make the cake, right? And here comes Phoebe Waller is like, yes, you've been making a cake and it tastes good, but it's just like, you could also make like a double layer cake and have it be a little fancier and do this and stuff like that. So I don't know exactly to what extent she was in there, but it felt like having her on these scripts was a good thing for this.
Yeah. There's a lot of humor in this movie that I think is well placed. It adds a lot of sparkle to the experience, but it feels fairly naturalistic. Like, there's a joke I like right at the beginning of the movie where we see child Madeline, and this is like in the 90s, and she's sitting there like playing with her Tamagotchi, which feels like it would be such a kind of obvious 90s reference, like just there for the nostalgia's sake. But she's playing with this thing. And she's like, you're hungry again? You're only eating because you're depressed.
Yeah. It's so good.
And this is the girl who grows up to be a doctor and a psychologist. Like, that is what a young Madeline would say. Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. I liked it. I liked it a lot. How did you feel about the new 007? We get a new 007 that we're introduced to as well.
Nomi.
Yeah, Nomi, played by Lashana Lynch.
It was great to see her. She's such a presence. I love all of her outfits. I love her sunglasses. She's got great sunglasses in this movie. I gotta make sure they're mentioned as well. She's a lot of fun. I like that she has like a respect for Bond, but she's like, you left the game. I'm the one in the game now. I made double O status when I was pretty young. And, you know, after you left, they didn't retire your number. They gave it to somebody new, and it's me. Like, respect me in this role. And then by the end of the movie, when Bond's like kind of back in the action and he's like, learn to work with her. Like they're cooperative. They are respectful. She's like, if he's back, he can have his number back. he can have that. That's okay. I'll take another number.
Yeah, she respects him at the start because of his like storied past.
Yeah,
but is very much she's not trying to prove herself. I feel like she already feels like she's proved herself.
Yeah, absolutely.
But also knows the kind of character that James Bond is, and so she has to be like, nope, the wall is right here. This is the boundary. Like, you will respect me. All of that stuff, which is good for her.
She's teasing him a lot. I like just the way a young person teases the like old dog in her fields. It's playful.
There is that layer too, which she respects him, but is also just like, I respect you, but I also don't know you. But you're also the old one of my, like, in my position. So yeah, there is that like teasing, playful stuff, so that by the end of that, when she has gotten to know him and understand like who he actually is and what his character is like, she has a much more like fond, like personal respect that when they know that he's been reinstated as a 00, they haven't really figured out the paperwork to be like, okay, he's 007.2 or something. I don't know. She finally asked like, hey, can he be 007, and then I'll just get something new after that.
Yeah.
She has that level of respect for him. But yeah, I liked her a lot. I know that they said they're going to be looking for a new James Bond down the road. Kind of a shame that it's not going to be her.
The end credits do say
not that I want
James
her to be
Bond
James
will
Bond,
return,
but like
yeah, she does a great job. I would love to see her again. I hope this isn't like the only time we get to spend with Nomi. I think she's delightful. But I do like the idea of playing around with dividing up James Bond and 007. Like, who are other people who could fill this role, and who is this man if he's not necessarily in that role?
Yeah, it seems like an interesting direction to explore, and it's kind of sucks that they're not really going to get to, or at least we expect them to not.
We don't know. Like, there's so many places this franchise could go now that they've closed the book on Daniel. And I don't, like, James Bond's such a coveted position, and there's so many people that are whose name have been thrown out as being great in that role, and many of them are. Like, every idea somebody comes up with is usually a good idea. Like, it's so scarce. Just like one guy can be him at a time. So I like the idea of, we've got a James Bond, and we've got like, this is the person who actually is the 007 designation, and they're a Bond equivalent, but like, we can have both. We can like, this is how we'll share it. We'll split it up. Here, you get the top part of the Oreo, you get the bottom part of the Oreo. You both get a little bit of the cream in the middle.
They are James and Bond. There's an ampersand in there now. I think this, though, is the problem, or one of the problems with this film, is that we're introduced to a bunch of these cool characters that we just don't get to spend much time with, and it's just like, I want more of them, please.
Right,
give me more.
I don't feel like anybody is underutilized, but it is just that you do
That's
like
true.
all of them.
Yeah,
And you almost you do want additional time, even if the movie would be like 3.5 hours long. And we truly don't know how it's going to proceed from here. And looking back on the Bond history, like the M, the Q, the Money Penny, those have been actors who have continued throughout different Bonds. Judi Dench was there
Right.
for Pierce Brosnan, and then she was doing the exact same thing for Daniel Craig. We don't know if M and Q and Moneypenny and Nomi and Tanner are going to stick around for whoever the next actor is. They could or they couldn't. It's shown to have been both ways.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Yeah. So yeah, we kind of get this whole plot of MI6 working on this secret weapon, and it goes wrong because Safin steals it, all of that stuff. And they are finally like, look, we need to interrogate what's his name that they have locked up
Blofeld.
from the film before. Blofeld. Yeah, thank you. He's the one that orchestrated this whole thing. It went very, very wrong, but he's only talking to his therapist. It turns out his therapist is Madeline Swan. So yeah, 5 years down the road, Bond and Swan have this awkward reunion to do all of this stuff, but Madeline Swan has already been contacted by Rami Malek's character and has been given the weapon to like spray on her to then go kill Blofeld because he is the final remaining person inspector.
Yes. Before we get to the Blofeld scene, we do need to set up that after this mission in Jamaica, where the scientist ends up getting away. Well, it turns out the scientist gets away because Logan Ash, who's this like young agent that Felix had to bring along with him for this meeting with Bond, has betrayed them. Is working for Safin's side and helps the scientist get away. I forget the scientist's name. Like, would you look it up for me, please? Dr. Obenchek or something. It's like some Russian name, I think. They said it a lot, but I couldn't quite like lock my brain onto it, which is a shame because that's a fun character. Like he gets a lot to do within being supporting scientist. It's just like their guy who's only the.
His name is Valdo Obruchev.
Obruchev. Okay. Yeah, Dr. Obruchev. He's very entertaining. It's a great performance. Like, I don't know, they get a lot out of using him only in the supporting utilitarian role. But after Logan Ash betrays them, the ship they're on, where they were going to sail away from the island, goes down, and Felix dies. Felix gets shot. He's got a very touching final scene with Bond. It was sad to see him go, but I understand it as this is the final era of this Bond. Maybe the final era for this Felix as well. Perhaps we'll see another new Felix down the line in the future. And he's a character who still feels so present throughout the movie. Like I mentioned, like Bond and Paloma, they toast to their mutual friend Felix. Paloma makes sure to give Bond, here's a cigar that Felix wanted from this mission in Cuba. Send it to him.
Yeah. He feels like a fan favorite. Like he's well liked.
I love
by
him.
everyone. Not only as viewers of the movie, but in the movie world itself.
Right. Anybody who's met Felix likes Felix.
He's a good guy. You're right. Yeah.
Right. And like Bond is to call and tell M like Felix died on this mission, and M has an interesting role in this movie where M was one of the people carrying on like the Heracles experimentation and like keeping it secret because he's like he seems almost at the beginning like he might turn out to be the villain of the whole thing, but you find out that he's keeping this whole thing secret because he's like, this needs to continue because it is the most efficient way of keeping
to save
England safe. Right. He's like, this thing is terrible if it's in the wrong hands, but when it's in the right hands, it can be so targeted, so direct. We won't kill innocent bystanders. We won't have to blow up a building just to get one person inside. He's like, I really do think this is for the greater good. Yeah, Bond is to call M and tell him Felix died on this mission. He's very angry, and M's like, very genuinely, I am sorry to hear that. Felix Leiter was a good man. I do. He's very respected in this field.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was a sad moment. I
Mm.
the when they got to that boat is when I went and used the bathroom because I was like, I kind of know what's gonna happen here. I know what's
Yeah,
coming
sure.
up, and I got back like right in time for him to like get shot and then all of that stuff. I was like, ah, I knew it. I knew
He
it was
gets
happening.
and then he gets shot, and then like the ship is going down, and he's in Bond's arms 1 second, and the next he's just under the water. It sweeps him away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sad stuff. Sad stuff. Um, but yeah, then that's kind of when we jump ahead to this Blofeld scene where they need to go interrogate
Mm.
him and figure out what happened or what he might know about who could have done this thing. And awkward reunion between
Mm.
Bond and Swan, and Madeline can't. She's having trouble handling this because she knows that she's about to basically kill this guy, but doesn't
And like
want to
make
do it.
yeah, and like and she's well, it's a weapon like designed for Blofeld, and like Bond's trying to like reach out and like shake her hand, like hello,
Yeah,
Dr. Swan, like trying to make good, trying to have like a polite meeting with her again, and she like won't shake his hand. Like she's doesn't know what to do with the situation emotionally, and is also like it seems like she feels bad that she would put Bond in the situation where he has to kill Blofeld. Because Blofeld was his adopted brother once upon a time. Bond's parents died in a skiing accident. He was adopted by this family. You know, his brother's I forgot his name of originally. Like Bond grew up with this like adopted brother who he lived with for a time until he like went off and joined like the Royal Navy, and then like lost touch with that foster family. And then that's the person who comes back and is like, I ended up taking a name from my mother's side of the family, and now you can call me Ernst Stavro Blofeld. It seems like maybe she doesn't want Bond, even if this guy's turned out to be a supervillain. She's like, I don't want to put Bond in the situation where he has to kill the man who was once his brother.
Yeah, well, to me, I didn't read that as her putting Bond in that situation. I think she just doesn't want to be in that situation herself. I don't think she wants to.
Yeah, she
take his
definitely
life.
doesn't. But I think there is also an element of concern. Like, I thought Bond was out of this. Like, I don't want bad things to happen to this man. I still love this man. I want him to literally and metaphorically keep his hands clean.
Right, because I think if she does go ahead and kill him, he will immediately know what happened of like, oh, somehow you are involved in this, which is still like, yeah, Bond probably does want all of Spectre gone so he can put that behind him. So in that sense, it'd be a good thing. But it's all, yeah, like you said, it's also his kind of adopted brother, even though they have this antagonistic relationship. That it's just an awkward situation to be in, and she
Franz
can't really handle it.
Oberhauser. That was the name he grew up with. It was Franz Oberhauser. I think that's right. I hope that's not the name of another character, Christoph. Christoph played. He's been that guy in a movie. I hope it was Spectre, and I don't have this confused with Inglourious Bastards.
Something like that. But yeah, Madeline can't really take it, so she tries to leave, which is when Bond reaches out, touches her on the wrist, where she has all of these like nanobot things that can kill him, and yeah, then Bond becomes the weapon here. How did you feel about this scene where Bond does end up choking Blofeld? Did you feel that scene was earned? Because I almost didn't. Like that felt forced.
First off, I love the setup of this scene that like Blofeld is like protected like he's Magneto. And like they have to go into like Bond and Madeline have to go into this little room.
Hannibal, yeah.
Right, and Blofeld's like off in some other jail cell, and they have to put him into like a little metal cage and send him along like a conveyor belt it's so tense as he's just like in this little contraption.
It is a really good
like
scene.
Slowly going down the hallway, slowly getting closer to them. And Bond can tell Madeline's terrified. And that's why he kind of reaches out for her, like, hey, your hand's shaking. Are you okay? And like, that's how he gets this poison on him. And she freaks out and she's like, I have to leave. I'm getting out of here. And Bond kills Blofeld because he's he's like throwing his relationship with Madeline in his face. Like, her father was a killer. Now she's still in love with you and you're a killer. And how could you knew what you were getting into. Oh no, what it is that Blofeld confesses like, oh yeah, everything that happened at Vesper's grave was me. Madeline had nothing to do with it. I figured this whole thing out. You were angry at her for no reason. I knew you would be angry at her. Ha ha ha. I made you think that another lady betrayed you, dear brother. What a silly brotherly prank.
Yeah, it's just like, they are having this kind of back and forth mind games thing where Bond isn't really getting what he wants out of him. Blofeld is kind of manipulating him, but also, yeah, in this like, look what I did, brother. Like, another woman betrayed you, but it wasn't. It was me. And I'm obviously exaggerating that, but it did feel...
Yeah, this is not the performance Christoph Waltz is giving Oscar winner Christoph Waltz.
I mean, I don't know about you, but my impersonation was pretty spot on. No.
I want to say Bond has faced 3 Oscar winners in a row. Bardem, Waltz, and Malek. Yeah.
There you go. I don't know. I just felt like that scene wasn't entirely earned. Like, I felt like Bond should have known to keep his cool more, or at least like he can get angry. We know he's an emotional person, but I just, to the point where he's like choking him and being like, "You die, Blofeld." It's just like, what? I don't know if I believe that. Yeah.
They could have accomplished the same thing with him not overtly choking him and saying, I want you to die. That's just what he does. They could have just been like something that's more like subtly threatening and just like reaches out and like pats him on the hand or something. They would have accomplished the same thing, which is that the second they have skin to skin contact, like Blofeld is dying. Like your skin sort of like, you got all these boils and stuff on your face. You look gross, and then your heart gives out or whatever.
Yeah, I was even wondering
that is not what I expected to happen. I did not think he was literally going to die immediately. What was that? What's on my hands?
They mentioned like, yeah, it can transfer from skin to skin contact. I was wondering if it can get onto other surfaces and stuff. So there is that scene where Bond puts his arm up against like the corner of that, or if he was gonna like put his hands down on the bottom somehow, and then maybe Blofeld would put his arms on the same spot, and maybe that was gonna do something, but it's just not what happened in that scene there.
Yeah.
So oh well. Yeah, that scene was a little bit much.
Yeah, him reaching out to choke Blofeld like he's Homer Simpson, throttling Bart in early seasons of The Simpsons was, yeah, that was a little odd. When do we get to Q? When is it Q time?
I feel like he's already in the movie at this point.
I don't remember when we go check in with Q. Well, I think it's like right after Felix dies. And then like Bond is just like in an inflatable life raft, just floating in the sea. And then some big barge comes upon him, just like, honk honk, we see you, pal. Don't worry, we're gonna get you to safety. And then it cuts to back in London. And he's opening up a storage facility where it seems like MI6 or him put all his stuff. And there's like that little ceramic bulldog wrapped in the Union Jack that M left him, that Judi Dench left to him. He drives out in his Aston Martin, and then he goes to MI6, and he's like, "M, Ray Fiennes, it's me. I'm back. I know that you gave Nomi my number. I'm here to yell at you. I'm mad about Heracles. I'm mad about Felix dying. Hi, Moneypenny. Nice to see you." I think later Moneypenny's like, "All right, we're gonna go over to Q's apartment and we're gonna talk about this." And Q is like in the middle of like very anxiously cooking a dinner. Yeah, and like they arrive at the door and there's a moment where he like looks at the little screen and sees that it's Moneypenny and Bond for the first time he's seen him in 5 years, and he just like has to like sigh and compose and
some shit. Yeah.
Right, it's probably also like he has not known what has happened to Bond, and he's like, oh, it is a lot for me to emotionally deal with right now that this man I have worked with and befriended, I didn't know if he was dead or alive, and now here he is, he's alive. What is he here for? What does he need? And he just opens the door and he's like, so you're alive? Like all he can resort to is just like exasperation. Like I don't have time for any of this. This is too many emotions. I'm preparing for a date, and all he says is like, he'll be here in 20 minutes. So we don't know who this mystery guy is that it seems like he's on a date with, but I like that little touch. I also liked his hairless cats, and Bond picks one up and is like, these things come with fur now?
That's such a like dad joke for James Bond.
I loved it though.
Which is great because later on in the film we find out that he is a dad. But it is this just like, they came in fur first. It's not like cats with fur is not a new thing, Bond.
No, I think that's the joke he's making at Q, because Q is always like, here's the new thing. We upgraded it. Here's an advancement. It's got this new feature. Sure. And Bond's like, you've got the old model of cat.
Yeah. But it's like they just walk in to they barge into his apartment immediately when he opens the door, just like a hurricane. And they just start messing things, and he's just oh no, oh god,
and
okay,
then right, and then he's like, fine, he realizes what is at stake, that they wouldn't be here if they need to be here, and he's like, okay, I guess I'm in. I guess he cancels his date. Who knows? I don't know if then like him and Moneypenny and Bond
really
sit around eating the
like that dude could just like walk in as he's
right,
like,
yeah, we don't see him like text this guy and
cancel
stuff. It. Yeah.
Who knows? Good stuff though. I liked him in this film. Indeed,
I love Q. I love him and Bond together. They're always making fun of each other, and they're exasperated at each other. But when Bond storms in and he's like, "Hello, Q, I missed you," it feels teasing, but it also does feel sincere.
Yeah, it's
like those two only love each other, but they only have sarcasm to communicate this.
Right. It's partly because like Q is oftentimes the middleman. Like he is the first one that Bond contacts when he has to like, hey, I need to relay a message to whoever. It has to go through him, so he hears all of this stuff first, which we're already in spoilers, but when Bond knows he's going to die, like he like this is the first one he talks to. He's like, hey, I'm not gonna make it. Can you get me Madeline? Can you put her on? And he's just like, you mean you're not gonna do this or that, or what do you mean? And then he's the first one that's just like, oh, I get it. Okay, yeah. Let's get you Madeline. Yeah.
Yeah, and like there's nothing he can do. Like put Madeline on the phone is all that he can do. Yeah.
But yeah, so then we get into I guess what is like the final act of the film here, where Bond catches up with Madeline and finds out that he has a daughter, but is told that it is not his daughter right away.
Right. Yeah, he goes to Madeline's, like, this is the house we saw at the beginning of the movie, the house she was raised in, which is in like Norway. And like he figures out that that's where she's going, and he goes to meet her, and they're having this tense conversation where she's like, I'm ready to tell you all these secrets that I had now. I'm going to tell you like who Safin is, how we're connected. Yeah, this like little like 4-year-old girl with these bright blue eyes pops up. Bond instantly knows what's going on, and Madeline's like, no, she isn't yours. She isn't yours. And like you can tell it's like, just stay out of it. Just don't look into it, Bond. What does it matter if she's yours or not?
Focused.
What is this going to change? Right. Yeah, don't think about it.
Yeah, so we get introduced to them, but they quickly need to go on the run as they find out that that Mr. Smiley Ash is
Guy
on
Smiley.
his way. Yeah, on his
Yeah.
way to kill Madeline or kill Bond or
Yeah,
whoever.
yeah.
And
The
they're
kill
chasing
Bond,
after them.
kidnap Madeline, and the little girl's name is Mathilde. She's very sweet. Yeah, because that's what Safin wants. He wants them. Yeah, there's a wonderful chase scene like through the forest in the fog. Oh, there's so many gorgeous set pieces in this movie.
I loved
interior
this one,
and exterior. This
is why on the captain's log when we did our traditional like what so Kyle, you've seen this, but I haven't seen it yet. What does the new Bond smell like? If this was a scented candle?
Yes. It's a new segment. We call it Yankee Goes to Hollywood. We describe films to each other in terms of what if it was a scented candle. So we get an abstract vibe of the movie without having any explicit spoilers.
Yeah, and I said that the new Bond smelled like a foggy morning, which
and
is
freshly fallen snow. And a blossoming garden. We'll get to soon.
Exactly. Yeah. I loved this whole chase scene. I don't think we've really seen Bond out in the I don't want to say it's the jungle, but out in the wilderness all that much when it's
Skyfall.
this like heavy.
Skyfall is wilderness. It's moors. There aren't trees.
Yeah, like I guess what I mean is like this kind of flora of just like everything's green and foggy. Like we haven't seen him in this setting yet. Like we've seen him in these like extravagant cities and the historical cities and stuff like that. We have seen him like out in the desert or in some kind of like oil tanker rig thing complex something. But yeah, nothing like this exactly. And so I just like the fact that this was a new type of scenery to see him in was pretty cool.
Where he has to like kill somebody with a tree, like indirectly. Like Logan Ash is like he's thrown out of his car and his like Jeep is like hovering over him, like like he's down in like a little, like little gulch,
ditch thing,
and then there's like only one tree there, like stopping the car from like plummeting down on him, and he's like taunting Bond in his final moments, and Bond's like, because of you, I lost a brother. His name was Felix Leiter, which is so emotional because you think he's going to talk about like, this is like the one fond thing. He's just like, yeah, maybe I hated Blofeld. Maybe he was a supervillain, but he was my brother once, and I regret it. I regret that we didn't have the chance to, I don't know, just on principle's sake, don't kill my brother. You think he means it literally. But he's talking about Felix, which is such an honorable thing to do. And then that harkens back to like the first thing Felix ever said to him when they meet each other in the casino, in Casino Royale, where Felix sort of leans over him to like, I'm bleeding chips over here, not good at my game. You know how it is. And he leans in and he's like, my name's Felix Leiter. I'm a brother from Langley, indicating I'm a CIA agent. We run in the same circles. We're allies. Like the first thing Felix said to Bond was like identifying them as brothers. Yep. I loved what a specific, touching callback that was.
It was good. And yeah, then he gives the car enough of a push to have it fall on this dude and smashes him. And Madeline Swan and Childs get kidnapped and taken to Rami Malek's villain lair.
What a lair! This movie delivered on lair. He lives, it's like this little island between like Russia and Japan. I have no idea where Safin is actually supposed to be from. I don't know if he's from either of those countries. It's very ambiguous.
What do we know? What ethnicity Rami Malek?
I think he's Egyptian. I don't think Safin's.
I was gonna say like I wonder if he is somehow like a mix of like Japanese and Russian, and that's why they were just like, we're gonna set it there. But I guess not. I was wrong.
Unclear. They're not super important. Just that's where that island is, and like his family has been poison makers Like they were like the poison makers for Spectre going back years, and then Spectre there was bad blood, and they decided to kill the whole family, and like Safin got out. Whatever the poison, whatever method they used to like kill his family, didn't kill Safin. It just left him with his face like extremely scarred.
Yeah.
So he's reinvigorating Poison Island, and it's like these big brutalist like concrete structures. There's like a literal garden outside that's like surrounded by, it's got like a little pool in the middle and growing these like scary poison plants. And then on the inside, there's this like pool filled with these like light poles or whatever. Like you don't really know what it is, but it seems sinister. And then later somebody gets knocked into it,
Just
and their
cool
body
lighting.
immediately boils with acid. It's great. A plus layer.
The thing that like big river of liquid and stuff is the weapon that's just not been programmed to anyone yet. So I think it's just like whoever touches it will.
I don't know if that's necessarily
why they have all the suits. That's
that
what
might
I
be
read
it. That might be true. I didn't know. It seemed like they were concocting Heracles there. They're going to grow additional Heracles and use it to like, to wipe out mass swaths of people. Seems like they were also doing just all kinds of poisons. Like that's why he's got the garden. Seems like they're not doing Heracles exclusively. So yeah, I don't know if that like pool of water was Heracles or if it was just another form of acid.
Just nondescript acid.
Yeah, like Gotham
Which is
City
what you would
style.
Expect to have at a Bond layer, just some nondescript acid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked this Bond layer a lot. I wish we could have gotten to see more of it. I was satisfied with what we got. I think it's details that we don't necessarily need, though.
I want to say so much of this movie felt like a theme park ride to me. More than other Bond movies, more than most other action movies. Like the fight scene in Cuba with Paloma, where like there's power lines falling down and everything's being shattered, covered with these sparks. They reminded me a lot of Twister, Ride It Out. There's Blofeld in his like little conveyor box. And then you go to this place, you go to the Poison Island. A lot of this felt like this more than any other movie. Just, I want it to be a ride. I want to go to Universal Studios and ride Escape from Poison Island.
Yeah. I liked it a lot, especially the kind of contradicting visuals between the like hard concrete and metallic structures with this like very zen Japanese garden with beautiful lighting and
delicate
stuff like
flowers.
That. It was a good mix.
Yeah.
Now, for a while, we were speculating before this movie came out that that Rami Malek's character was going to be some version of Dr. No, because their layers were similar, mysterious past somehow.
Nehru collars,
yeah, stuff like that. Turns out not to be true, but there are still a lot of similarities, especially, like I said, in their layer, because we get to Dr. No's layer, and it's like on this island where there is all of these like big concrete and metallic structures. They're doing scientific experiments there, but then there is this like flair for the Japanese and stuff like that mixed in there, and it was just led us to believe I wonder, right?
This is also a movie from a director of Japanese descent, and when Q was making dinner, like it isn't a Japanese dinner, it looks like there's, I don't know, little nods to that throughout the film. It is an interesting pastiche of things. I want to say that the villain in Moonraker also had like a lair, and he had a garden there filled with these where he was growing orchids that he was going to use to kill humanity, and then they were the people he liked were going to fly away in a spaceship. That's also a movie where there's a lair with like a large escape sequence and a garden.
There you go. Good stuff. Yeah. Things are going down on the complex. They are figuring out a way to kind of explode all of this stuff. They end up saving Madeline and her kid.
Character, I want to say briefly, one of my favorite choices in this movie is that Safin like takes Mathilde away from Madeline. He's like trying to play nice, trying to like show her around the garden. Like, look, Mathilde, look at these flowers. You know, if you can reach out and you can look at them, but if you tasted one of these, something bad would happen to you. So make sure you never misbehave, Mathilde. Your mother should never misbehave either. Because Safin's got this obsession, this fixation with Madeline ever since he like tried to kill her, and then she's staring up at him, you know, wide-eyed from underneath this frozen lake. And he's like, I'm the only person around who can help you. You needed me. I'd like to feel needed, and now I'm like obsessed with like having you under my control and my care. Like he's and like he thinks Madeline's going to like try and get away, try and do something. So he like sends her off to like, I'm gonna make you drink a poison tea. Cyclops, make Madeline drink a poison tea. I'm gonna keep showing Mathilde around the lair, and like Mathilde's got a little stuffed like bunny looking character she calls Doo Doo.
Mm-hmm.
D-O-U. I'm not sure if it means anything in French or anything. I'm curious, but it's very cute.
I don't know.
Doo Doo. Well, she drops it at one point and around like, where's my doo doo? And then Savage like I don't know if I looked away for a second, but he like gets fed up with her. I don't know if she like bit him or pinched him or something. But all of a sudden he's.
So Bond ends up finding Safin while he has her like sitting there, and after a short conversation, it's real tense. Bond like tries to make a move to like get her back, and he has a trap door that opens up. He goes underneath, and it shuts in the most like Bond villain fashion.
That shot is great. I love
My
that.
First
like
thought
it's just
was
like him
Melissa's
with the child
gonna love this. Yeah,
I do love it's just him with Mathilde in his arms. They just like drop like bye.
It's like he has a fucking trap door in this thing. Amazing.
I do
so good.
I do love the trap door. But what I love in this scene is that he's like tired of having Mathilde around, and he just sets her down like, off you go. Like he doesn't.
She eventually bites him, and he's just like, okay, you know what? Fine. If you want to go, you can just go. And he just lets her go, and she just like wanders off and like waddles off.
I love that he's like, this is not worth it for me to like try and keep having this kid around. I'm done with her, but like I don't need her killed. I don't need her hurt. I don't need her like kept anywhere. And he's like, just run loose. What will happen to you will happen to you. Maybe you survive, maybe you don't. Just I'm gonna let a 4-year-old loose in my lair to her house. I thought that was really funny that like he has no specific harm planned. He's like,
loved that.
Just let her run. Just let her go. I don't know where she's gonna end up.
Yeah, just completely like, you know what? I don't even need to deal with this. Just forgets her and
she
leaves.
Goes. Let her find her doo-doo.
God, it was so funny. But yeah, the mom and her end up reuniting. Bond gets them out safely. He entrusts her to Nami as she gets them out safely. But then it is up to Bond to kind of open the like missile silos in this location. This was like a World War II era building. Yeah. That's why it has like, all of the concrete and stuff like that.
And he's found like how much Heracles and like how much poison and how much dangerous stuff is there in that facility. He calls back to MI6 and he's like, we need to nuke this place. Like I want to take Safin out, but all of this needs to be destroyed. Like before any of it gets off of this island. And so he has to open up all these doors so that like the place isn't protected anymore, because otherwise the missiles will just bounce right off of it. He's like, I gotta open the doors, let the missiles in.
Yeah. Figures out a way to do that, but Safin is not dead yet. So as Bond thinks he's like, good, I got it. The missile doors shut, despite the missiles already being on their way.
Yes,
And
yeah, that's the thing. He's got a ticking clock. Like he had to open up all the doors, and like everybody else has got,
escape.
like Nomi and Madeline and Mathilde have gotten off the island, and Bond has to like manually sort of open up these doors. And Q's talking to him over the earpiece, and he's like, "This is a very archaic system, and I'm afraid it's going to be rather complex for me to explain it to you." And Bond just like turns the big wheel, pushes the lever, like I figured it out, Q.
Yeah. Yeah, but it, like the clock is ticking. Safin is not dead yet. He closes these big missile silo doors, and Bond then has to go, instead of escaping, has to then go deal with Safin and redo the doors. And in the struggle against Safin, Safin has the poison that is specifically for Madeline and his child,
to their specific like DNA, the parent and child share. Yeah,
opens that and scratches him with this thing. He scratches Bond with that. So Bond is now tainted with this poison that will only kill those two people. So he realizes basically right away, once it is, that he can never see them again. He can get nowhere near them.
Right. He doesn't want to live a pushing daisies lifestyle where he attempts to live around them and love them and never touch them, or else they die.
Not even that, like, hey, I can make it off. I have to be isolated and like put in this one room so you don't get it. It's just like, we already know that this stuff can transfer from person to person. So if anyone else touches it and it can spread, like we just don't know. And yeah, he like, there's gonna be no way for him to see them. And yeah, so he has to open the doors up again, which he does, but that's when at the end he's just like, yeah, I'm not gonna make it.
By that time he's realized, after he has to like kill Safin and like open the doors back up again, he's like, I do not have time to make it off this island. And like he's so like battered after that like fight with Safin in the pool. Like he's really struggling to like climb up this ladder to like get out on top of the base.
He's been shot now too.
At
least once or twice.
He's a mess, and like he knows he doesn't have time. And even if he did, like, does he have the physical strength to get himself anywhere to safety? And does he have the emotional strength to keep on living, knowing he can never see the love of his life and his child again? And he calls Hugh and tells him he's not going to make it, and he asks him to put Madeline on the connection, and I think he says his final words to Madeline. It's very touching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a emotional ending to this movie, to the whole saga. I was not expecting it to be this like emotional about a James Bond film. So, good stuff.
There's a scene at the beginning of the movie where he's like driving around Italy with Madeline when they're in their like honeymoon period, and I think she says, like, why don't you drive a little faster? And he's like, oh, no, why do I need to drive faster? There's no place we need to get to. He's like, we have all the time in the world, which is a line from On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which is the Bond movie they did with George Lazenby for one movie after Sean Connery left. They're like, okay, we're going to get a new guy in. We're going to try something different. That movie was not well received. And right after that, they're like, Connery, do you want to come back and do more? And it's sort of been this weird outlier in Bond history, where like nobody really liked the actor or the movie. But after a while, like people started to come around to the movie, which is a story I like a lot. Like going back and watching older Bond movies.
It's the one where he gets married, right?
Yes. He finds this woman named Tracy, and he falls in love with her and marries her. He gets married. And then at the end of the movie, and like he's thought, like, I defeated Blofeld. I don't have any active enemies anymore. Let me drive away with my wife in our car covered with flowers. And he's like, oh, honey, imagine all we can do. We have all the time in the world. And then Blofeld comes by and just shoots her, just drives by and shoots Tracy and Mrs. Bond. And the movie ends with Bond like cradling his dead wife's body, saying, no, it's all right, honey. We have all the time in the world. And when Spectre was announced, people were looking at that thinking like, oh, are they going to do On Her Majesty's Secret Service again? Seems like he's got like this one main love interest. He's really interested in this movie.
Yeah.
The medical facility where Madeline works, that like sort of resort spa up in the Alps, that's pulled directly from On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Most of the movie is spent there. It's an interesting movie in that it's a lot more insular. It's not as globe-trotting. It's also got some beautiful cinematography in it. That was something I really liked about it. On Her Majesty's Secret Service is the prettiest the pre-Daniel Craig Bond movie I've seen so far. So the fact that everybody thought, oh, Spectre's going to be On Her Majesty's Secret Service. He's going to fall in love with this woman and then she's going to die by the end of the movie. And then that's not how it happened. And they extend that to the next movie after that, but instead, no, she lives. Bond dies.
Yeah. An interesting twist, but I think, yeah, it's a good homage to previous Bonds.
Especially like the most like obscure Bond, like of all the movies for them to directly homage. I feel so vindicated that it's like, we're going to take On Her Majesty's Secret Service, right down to the movie ending with, well, after Bond dies. And I knew he was going to die like as soon as, I believed up until like through the first time he opens the doors, like maybe he'll get away. Maybe this film will truly end with what he's always been trying
Happily
to do.
Ever
like,
after, yeah.
Right, yeah. But the second like the doors are open again, I'm like, oh no, he's not getting off of this. He's dying. That's how the direction this movie is going to. If we're not going to be with this Bond anymore, we're not going to let him ride out into the sunset. He's going to die at the end of this. Our first Bond to die. But after he dies, there's a really lovely scene with the rest of MI6, and Moneypenny and Q and Tanner. Tanner, who's like the chief of staff. He doesn't do much. He's not an action guy, but he's always around. He's
like the recurring extra.
He does stuff. He just does more like administrative stuff. They're having like a very nice sort of goodbye drink in M's office where M reads out of some book. He didn't attribute what it was, what quote this is from, but he says like, the point of life is not, the point of our time is not to keep extending our time. The point of our time is to live. And he's like, that is what Bond did. He lived more than anyone else we've ever known, and we're never going to forget him. And then we see Madeline.
You're living, you have no time to die.
Right.
I'm blown, ladies and gentlemen. That's it.
And then the final bit of the movie is Madeline in one of the Aston Martins driving Matildes around the same Italian countryside, which I think is also where On Her Majesty's Secret Service ends. I think that was also set in Italy, maybe. And she turns to her daughter and she says, I'm going to tell you a story. This is a story about a man named Bond, James Bond. And she drives off in the Aston Martin and they start playing the song from On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which is Louis Armstrong singing We Have All the Time in the World. I was so emotional.
I bet.
It was such a bold choice, but such a fitting end to this arc in the franchise with a very interesting, like, direct nod back to like an older movie in the franchise and not the one like you would have expected in the way you would have expected. This beautiful, like, direct tribute. This whole movie felt like, I don't know, very sentimental in a way that I liked. It was very loving about its characters and their journeys and their lives and who they are on their own. And, like Daniel respective to Daniel, but also Daniel respective to the history of all the Bonds and all the different homages that they want to pay. It was a very tearful end of the movie for me.
As we start to think about Bond in the future, that's kind of one of the things that I want to see more of. Is I want more to these characters, right? Like I feel like over these like 5 or 6 films that we got with Daniel Craig, we got enough to know them and recognize them and be emotionally attached, but it was like the bare minimum, right, of what we needed to be attached to these characters, where I feel like they now have the space and the option to do something new. Do we get a really, really top quality James Bond related show somehow, some way? It might not follow James Bond, it might not follow 007, but do we get a Q show? Do we get a
Q show?
I don't know, but just like I feel like they can build these characters up in a different way that we have seen, like as big and bombastic as the James Bond movies need to be. We often don't get the smaller emotional stuff, which if you guys have heard me talk on the review show, is often stuff that I want of just like, hey,
yes,
I like these characters, but you spent no time developing them. Like, give me these character moments and just the small things of Q going on a date and some guy's about to be there, but then we don't get to see the guy. It just you drop this little nugget and then it's just like, well, we just don't get to see.
Yeah, and I think this is a movie that had a lot to cover, and I think it covered it well. I don't feel like anything was underutilized. Yeah. Like I've said a couple times, I just like so much of it that I would gladly spend like an extra half an hour on like any of the points that this movie makes.
Absolutely.
It's not doing
I
it.
agree.
There's nothing it doesn't do enough of. It just does too many things too well that I'd like to see more.
What's your greatest weakness? Well, my greatest weakness is that I don't really have any weaknesses. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel too. That they just like, I liked all of the stuff that they gave me. It never felt like it was too slow or it focused on one thing too much. It was paced incredibly. I liked this film a lot, and it was emotional. Like I said, I was just not expecting to be this attached to what was happening. But I have to say, like, I also, like, I was emotional. I didn't tear up or cry or stuff like that. I would have liked to.
I would have liked to have cried.
I would have liked to. Come on. But yeah, I think especially knowing the homages to Her Majesty's Secret Service maybe would have helped that if I had known that a little bit more, of just like, oh, this is what they're calling back to. I can see the changes. I can see why this is maybe like more emotional than what I thought it was. But I didn't have that frame of reference, so it was just like, I get it that this is emotional. I am emotional over this, whatever that may mean. But it was not enough to be like, yes, this is like the perfect, like, make me cry, make me feel these characters.
Yeah.
James Bond is dead. And
they haven't like set up quite enough to get like Steve and Peggy dancing at the end of it.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of stuff that I want from James Bond going forward.
Yeah.
Make me cry at the end of the next saga.
I do love like all the character interactions. Like I in our episode we did about the first 4 Craigs, I was saying that Skyfall is my favorite because I love to spend just so much time at MI6. Like I love his globe-trotting adventures out in the field, like meeting new foes, new allies, new ladies. But I'd also just love to see like M and Q and Moneypenny and Tanner at the home office. I like that a lot. This is something I did get a lot of that out of this movie. And whatever direction they go in the future, I don't like I said, they could carry through those characters or they could recast them. Like there's a precedent for doing either of those things.
Absolutely.
We don't know like if we're going to have any continuity or if it's going to be another clean slate. The Bond is such an exciting world to play around in, and it's such an honor for an actor to be cast as Bond, and so many things that you know that he is, but also so many new layers you could add on to that character, so many types of new person he could be. That like there's not enough to go around almost. I loved this 5-movie arc that we got with Daniel Craig. And I know, like, I think at one point it was theorized to be like a 4-movie arc, but I appreciate that they're like, we can do better than Spectre. Spectre's fine. We need a better final movie for this guy. And it took a long time, but it was worth it. I'd love to see them
absolutely
do
was great.
future. Yeah, this was definitely worth it for me. Such a good time. I want to see this again. Maybe make another trip out the theater to see it. But I'd love to see them going forward do like shorter Bond runs so that we can have more different types of Bond and Bond stories. Like maybe nobody gets more than 3 movies for a while. And maybe in like 15 or 20 years, we're back to somebody who can have like a longer, like 5, 6, 7 movie run.
Yeah, something like that would be nice. One thing I thought of that I haven't really heard anyone talking about all that much is cast multiple actors and have the movies like focus on different time periods in his life. So like one when he's a younger agent, one when he's more middle-aged, and one when he's older and maybe he's now instead, so that you can in one movie have these 3 different versions of him and have this big like sprawling conspiracy that like Spectre has reached all of these things here there. Something like that might be neat.
That'd be a fun one to try, like a 3 Ages of Man Bond. I think I have seen people throw out in the past that they should do like one throwback Bond movie, maybe out of continuity. Maybe like this isn't part of an entire new like, you know, sub franchise of Bond, but do like one that is set back in the 1960s
period
Connery
piece.
Times.
Yeah.
Do
awesome.
like one period piece again. I'd like to see those. Show me like a Timothy Dalton 80s Bond Miami Vice movie today.
To be honest, just do them set in different decades. The like, here's one in the 60s, here's one in the 70s, here's one in the 80s, here's one in the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, the 2020s. That stuff could be really cool.
They can do a lot, and I'm excited to see what direction they want to go in next. You know, I know one particularly exciting thing about the Bond franchise is that it's like a family production. One guy got the rights, he made a studio just to produce Bond movies, and now it's his children that carry this on. Like they're very personally attached to Bond. And I don't think they like do other things. This isn't like one of several projects in their portfolio. Yeah. So I don't know, whatever comes out always feels very personally crafted. And that's something I look forward to seeing, no matter what the continuity or the content is.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's everything I have to say on No Time to Die. So, great stuff. It was phenomenal. I enjoyed it. Go see it. Go check it out. This is a great end to the Daniel Craig, James Bond era.
One final brief shout out to me for the costuming. This show, this series is always well regarded for Bond and his suits. I loved everyone's clothes. I love Paloma's dress. I love Nomi's like big, like burnt orange boxy blazer. I love Moneypenny's snappy little office outfits. Everybody looks great. This series doesn't get enough compliments on its female costuming that aren't like a bunch of suits. Yeah, let's talk about the costumes that aren't the suits. Let's talk about Nomi's sunglasses.
Absolutely. Good stuff indeed. Well, I think that about wraps us up for this spoiler cast of James Bond, No Time to Die. This was a good one. This was a fun one. Go check it out if you have not already. We don't typically do recommendations on these, do we? No, I don't think so.
I do recommend watching On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
There you go.
It's a helpful context.
With that, Melissa, where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Wilkywit. That's WILKYWIT. Like I mentioned earlier, I was a guest on an episode of the Spectre podcast talking about Moonraker. That was really fun. And listen to my other podcast, Saturday Morning Obscurities, where me and my brother Jams talk about weird old kids shows you feel like only you remember.
If you guys want to find me, I am at Yo Kyle Springer on Twitter. If you guys want to stay up to date with all of the stuff that we do here at the Whatnauts, we are at the Whatnauts on Twitter. So go like, share, and subscribe no matter what your 00 number might be. That would help us out a ton to go spread the word and all of that stuff. But yeah, that wraps us up for this episode of the Reactor Core. I think this has been episode number 54. Coming up down the road here on the Reactor Core, let's see, we have Eternals. I know that we're gonna be covering whenever that comes out at the start of November. Maybe Dune, at the end of October. The Hawkeye show at the end of November. I think Ghostbusters is in there somewhere as well. So we have some exciting stuff coming up. Spider-Man is out in December.
Speaking of a role that has been played by many actors with varying amounts of continuity, Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, indeed. So be on the lookout for all of that stuff in the coming months. But this wraps us up for episode 54. So thank you for watching. We will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.